Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Boys, it hit the fan big time. Folks, you've got LGB, you've got FJB, and you've got SHTF. We got lots of letters. We got them all here, the whole alphabet. Woo, I tell you. Oh, speaking of letters and alphabets, we do have a new set of letters out, and I kind of let them out of the bag early, but I wanted to bring it to your attention again, folks. The meme is working, and now recall I did this morning's video on censorship on, well, SHTF, political prisons, the agenda, the good guys, the bad guys, everything. I think it was an amazing video. I don't know what you guys think. You get to think whatever you think. I just happen to think it was freaking amazing. And this show is going to be freaking amazing also. It has got some incredible things that have happened today that you might want to consider, that you might want to incorporate in the way you're thinking. You're understanding the world out here. It is not a friendly world. It is not. So do what you must, folks. What I must do is prep: food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Anyways, get this. The vice president of the United States, with the lowest ever in 250 years, there has never been a vice president as unpopular as Kamala Harris. She has beaten them all, even the infamous Dick, what a dick, oh my Dick Cheney. She's even beaten him. Now, the bad news here, folks, what should bother you, is that she is only one bathroom accident away from becoming president. The most unrespected, unloved, unappreciated, incompetent boob to ever sit in the number 2 position. Right? If there is ever a quarterback you don't want going in the game, it's her, right? And she could be president with one bathroom accident. That could be Joe Biden passing out like Elvis on the toilet, or slipping in the shower. You know, he could rip a big one, scare the Secret Service. They could rush in and shoot the guy thinking a monster was in there. You just don't know. And speaking of that, speaking of monsters and getting shot, the left-wing lunatics, these idiots from the political left, that thought it was great to say, well, fuck Trump. They thought it was great to threaten Trump's son, to make fun of the entire Trump family, to go after them, to talk about them being in all sorts of accidents. They thought it was cute to threaten the president of the United States in music videos. I think it was Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin had the decapitated, bloody head of Trump. That's not a threat. You know, all the literal threats, that's just fine. But if you get a Let's Go Brandon lower receiver for your AR-15, if you want one of those, you can get one. A Let's Go Brandon. But the left, the loony left, are trying to say that is a threat to the president of the United States. A piece of metal, folks, that doesn't say anything about killing the president. Unbelievable. But that is the type of censorship. That is only their side counts type of mentality. But, you know, we really need to take into account, folks, all of the LGBT people out there. We really need to be sympathetic to their cause and their plight. Oh, yeah, we should.
Come on, man.
They want you to help put America back where you found it and leave it the hell alone.
Let's go, Brandon.
Thank you, Mr. T, for that one. That was a good one. Folks, was that, I think that was hands clapping, bang, gang, bang. But a lot of people would probably say those sounds like 3 gunshots. And speaking of 3 gunshots, we've got the master of the Kenosha hat trick himself, folks. And a hat trick, for those who don't know, is scoring 3 goals in 1 hockey game. That's called a hat trick. Well, up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we had a hat trick called the Rittenhouse hat trick, or the Kenosha hat trick. And Kyle Rittenhouse, and this is no laughing matter, is being charged with a crime for defending himself. So what does the district attorney, as part of their case, do in trying to railroad and screw over an American for exercising his right to breathing oxygen? Well, the Kenosha hat trick, he shot and got 3 murderous thugs. And 2 of them died. One of them, he basically blew his arm off. In court, he said his arm was vaporized. Yeah, okay. Anyways, this guy, this witness, this 3rd guy who was shot, Gage Grosskreutz, he on the stand admitted that he pointed a gun, a loaded weapon, at Kyle Rittenhouse before he got his arm blown off. The prosecution's case is looking really thin, folks. Looking weak when their star witness has to admit he was pointing a gun at Kyle Rittenhouse. He chased him down. He had him on the ground pointing a gun at him. That's their star witness. That was your Kyle Rittenhouse trial update. I think that's all I have to say, folks. Right? Let's go, Braden. Let's go, Brandon. Like Joe Biden. SHTF is here, folks, and it's here to stay. It's been revealed that China's army, the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, furnished foreign militaries, folks, with cerveza bug Jim Jones juice. Right? Next to be donated by the Chinese army are blankets loaded with Ebola. You know, that's parody, folks. That's satire. Folks over at YouTube, that is called satire. This whole show is satirical. But here's a little fun fact. Don't ever trust your enemy. When your enemy says, here's some Ebola blankets, that's not a Spanish word for warm, cozy, and comfy. If your enemy is offering you the Jim Jones juice, Kool-Aid, you don't drink the Kool-Aid, especially when it comes from your enemies. Unbelievable, the things we're learning, folks. Now, this came up too. This is the Let's Go Brandon Day. It's continuing to be a meme, a satirical joke, if you will, that has legs. It is going the distance. It is in pro sports at a professional hockey game at the Kraken Sports Arena. The whole place was chanting, "Let's go, Brandon." Now, elsewhere, Governor DeSantis, great governor over in Florida, that guy, the people of Florida love that dude. They're like, he's a great governor. Someone tried saying, he needs to do a better job. I'm like, who is doing a better job than that guy in this crisis of stupidity? Anyways, Governor DeSantis is at a podium in front of a crowd of regular citizens. It's not a room full of police arresting old people for wanting to speak. It's the governor. And he starts off by saying, the Biden-Brandon administration, and then he starts laughing. He was talking about the Biden administration. He says, the Biden-Brandon administration, and he starts laughing. The crowd starts laughing, and then they start chanting with the governor right there, "Let's go, Brandon." And then Governor DeSantis did some mansplaining on the origin of the satirical meme. Fucking hilarious, folks, hilarious. And I know there's just got to be huge tears. Folks, It's the beginning of the week. It's time for the, you got it, monologue Q&A. I do my 30 minutes, then you guys get 30 minutes of Q&A, and this week is off to a huge start, folks. Huge starts. Now, do you put your money on America, or do you put your money where your mouth is and invest in yourself? I recommend investing in yourself. The wokeness of this country, or shall I say the wokeness of the political left, Washington, D.C., New York City, is off the hook. There's new diversity policy managers at one of the world's biggest investment firms, State Street Global Advisors. And now, in order to hire white men, they're going to need to get permission. That's right, folks. In order to be a white man and get hired at State Street Global Advisors, you have to get permission from the uppity-ups. That's how woke the world is. How about competency, experience? How about grades if you get someone fresh out of college? How about that? Folks, we need to cancel stupidity, and we need to reward smart. I don't care what gender or color or religious belief smart is, as long as it is smart, right? State Street Global Advisors is a financial investment firm. I don't want to give my money, my mom's money, anyone else's money, if I were investing, to State Street Global Advisors so a bunch of woke idiots could take the money and, equitably redistribute it throughout the entire financial system, which actually translates into make a stupid mistake and some rich person gobbles it up. Now, let's go from stupid to super. Stupid to snooper. Folks, another super athlete has been smashed down. Smashed. Am I talking about Aaron Rodgers being smashed down because he fibbed? No, I'm talking about another guy. This guy's name is Florian Daguerre, and he is the world's top free diver. Now, in order to be a free diver, folks, you've got to go way down in the water. Okay, free diving, no mask, no tanks, free diving. You have to have incredible cardiovascular system, a body highly tuned and trained to do this super athletic stuff. To be a super athlete, folks, it takes a lot. Your body is a tuned machine. Now, I never professionally competed as a strongman. I was an amateur at it. No steroids. I competed and kicked ass. But in order to be an athlete, folks, you've got to train for it. You've got to have a great cardiovascular system, a great pulmonary system. Your brain has to be tuned. Your muscles have to be tuned. This guy, Florian Daguerre, goes down well over 100 feet, no doubt. I've seen some of these freediver guys go over 200 feet, no mask, right? No oxygen, no special tanks, no break. They just go. This guy, the reason this is important is that's how strong and good his body was, that he could do this. He is a freak of nature. That's how good he is, folks. And he has now been diagnosed with myocarditis. His career, in my opinion, is over. Guess what the one thing he did was? Guess what he did? I don't even have to say the fucking words, folks. Another super athlete is smashed. His career, his life, his skills, his training, everything. Now, why am I lamenting another athlete? Because, folks, it's not just athletes. If what he did can destroy his body, imagine how detrimental the same thing is to one of us normal humans with average cardio and average lungs and average muscles and average everything, right? A professional boxer can get hit all night long. It hurts. They don't like it, but they can get hit hundreds of times and live. Put me in a boxing ring with a professional boxer like Mike Tyson in his prime, one hit and I'm going to the hospital, right? These guys are trained super athletes and they can't take more than one or two hits and they go down. They get smashed down by this stuff. You know, and so what I want to talk about is the newest sports drink offered by the Prepared Mind at the thepreparedmind.club. I think you should get it. You know, it's better than Kool-Aid. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Why don't you just get yours? I mean, everyone else is doing it. Why wouldn't you? Oh, it's fabulous stuff.
Patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
Oh, yeah.
I think by now you've gotten the message. You know what took down Florian Deggery. Folks, professional hockey players, football players, basketball players, baseball players. Did I say soccer players? Tennis players, golfers, across the board, now a swimmer. Have we learned our lesson? I have. You can't talk me into it, folks. You can't convince me that drinking the Kool-Aid is a good idea. And when you see someone like Biden, Mr. Fart down memory lane with the Brits, Mr. I think I need another vacation this week. Who am I? I tell you what, folks, unbelievable. Unbelievable what is going on. Wait till you hear this, right? I want to read you something from a hero of mine. I want to read you a direct quote of what he had to say. It is incredible, folks. I want you to listen very carefully. Quote, "Why is the price of agricultural products when I go to the store, why is it higher? What, like, for example, if we were all going out and having lunch together and I said, let's ask whoever's at the next table, no matter how, whatever restaurant we're in, have them explain the supply chain to us. You think they'd understand what we're talking about? They're smart people. The supply chain, but why is everything backed up? Well, it's backed up because the people's supplies or materials that end up being on our kitchen table or in our life, guess what? They're closed those plants because they have COVID, end quote. Isn't that the most brilliant thing you ever heard, folks? The high-browed, mega-intelligent remarks of none other than President Joe Biden. Did you get how he explained what's going on with inflation? It's because the materials that end up being on our kitchen table or in our life, guess what? They're closed those plants because they have COVID. That explains everything, doesn't it? Thank you, Joe Biden. And this is the same guy that says, go get your Jim Jones juice. Go get, right, some zombie juice. Unbelievable. Thank you again, Mr. T, for that great satirical video on a on a can of Kool-Aid. Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. And speaking of Joe Biden and all the mistakes he's making, do you want to get rid of him and bring in Kamala Harris, the backup quarterback? You can't win. It's like, I don't know. I mean, no matter what, we know that there's some nebulous group that is puppeteering these people. And they're doing all of this intentionally, folks. Are you prepared? Do you see where this is leading? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense? Do you have a plan? Do you have a group? Do you have a community? Do you all understand the risk and the threat that's out there when people can't get food because this guy in our kitchen fam, whatever? What the fuck was that all about? Well, now the Biden administration is threatening to shut down another gas pipeline. Well, let's just go beg the Saudis and beg OPEC for more oil, that they're going to just say, nope, sorry, your emergencies don't equal our problem. That's what they said last week. So what's Biden do? They're threatening to shut down another gas pipeline, which is going to result in, folks, hardships and higher prices, and maybe even leaving Americans without heat. To me, it makes absolutely no sense unless you are trying to destroy this country, to hurt the people. Isn't that an impeachable offense? Isn't that a high crime or misdemeanor? Intentionally hurting the American people? Unbelievable, folks. And speaking of intentionally hurting American people, Antifa is back, folks. Antifa and Marxist pussies show up and want to disrupt a mask lockdown mandate protest against tyranny. So they're back, folks. And riot cops had to jump in and break up a big old fight because Antifa got into a legitimate protest, right? The protesters were there doing their thing, having speakers talk. They interrupted them. They made a bunch of noise. They were cute and funny because they're Antifa, the same people that caused billions of dollars in damage in 2020. And so they decided to start a fight with actual real live peaceful protesters in Boston. I imagine next week the FBI is going to show up and start arresting the libertarian, freedom-loving Americans for possibly the violation of Antifa's rights. Oh my God. So the anti-penis fascists, that's what Antifa stands for. They're anti-penis. The anti-penis fascist types are in support of government control and government mandates. Right? They want to have government control everything. So no freedom marches and speeches. Right? That's how this works. You want to have a march for freedom, a march that's peaceful. You want to have free speech that's peaceful. They're going to turn Antifa loose on you. Right? Basically, folks, Antifa has been activated and paid, I'm sure, paid to show up and harass the real people of America. And it's too bad the average Joe, folks, too bad for Joe Biden that the average Joe American is going to see Antifa and remember them as the 2020 Burn America crowd and realize that the Burn America crowd are actually on the opposite side of good Americans. In other words, folks, and it came out the other day that BLM has less support than ever from the American people. The Black Lives Matter movement / Marxist organization. As time goes, people are learning who these people are, what they stand for, who's backing them. But the fact of the matter is, shit has hit the fan, and these are useful idiots. Now, it's great when you're in City A and the useful idiots are in City B and stay in City B. Well, they tend to move them around the country. They seem to get flights wherever they need to go. Look out, folks. Oh, and by the way, that's who Kyle Rittenhouse had to deal with in Kenosha, Wisconsin, were these Antifa types, these left-wing Marxists who have criminal records and seem to like little children, too. That's who this crowd is, a bunch of sexual deviants who also have political opinions that are in line with some of the greatest murderers of all time. And that's who the left use as their muscle, folks. That's their muscle. Now, speaking of muscle, a major corporation, well, at least their employees, have come out and warned about their company's mandate. Procter & Gamble employees have come out and said, hey, you're going to cause problems. Here's the quote. What you've already seen happen to the airline industry will soon happen to many other organizations. And since they work for Procter & Gamble, they're probably talking about that. But they're warning, hey, get ready, folks. Get ready for inflation, is what they're saying. Get ready for short supplies. Get ready for rationing. And then blaming you, the non-juiced patriots. It's always someone's fault, folks. And they ain't going to blame themselves up in D.C. They're not going to take credit for a giant fuck up. Well, they're intentionally fucking things up, but they don't want credit for it. They want to be able to blame someone else. Hitler always had someone to blame. Stalin always had someone else to blame. Every great tyrannical dictator has always had somebody tied to a whipping post that they could blame. And then everyone would take their turn beating that sock puppet. Unbelievable, folks. Now, I want to talk to you again about Antifa, folks. Antifa and their ilk. They masquerade as many things. In England, they were masquerading as climate activists at the COP26, right, at the climate change conference. But you would think that if they were over there as climate activists, that they would be talking about saving the climate. Instead, folks, guess what they started chanting? They couldn't hold themselves back. They started shouting, system change, not climate change, right? Unbelievable, folks. Breitbart was over there. It's a Breitbart article. Oh, by the way, if you're on Patreon, you get all these articles. If you spend $2 a month at patreon.com at The Prepared Mind, you get all the articles, all of the medical videos that we can't even talk about, all the information that's out there that we gather that's worth passing on. We pass it on. A lot of stuff is repetitive. A lot of stuff is hard to follow, but we do our very best to get everything we can out. But these people are calling for system change, folks. What is system change? Governmental systems they're talking about. Instead of, we need a green revolution, they were shouting, quote, we need a socialist revolution. Adding that the world needs to, quote, get rid of all these capitalist bastards. Interesting, huh? Climate concerns, pandemic concerns, economic concerns are all manufactured problems designed to bring about system change. But folks, the system change isn't for freedom. The system change is moving to fascism, global crony capitalist fascism. And folks, these idiot tools on the street, whether they're in Boston attacking patriotic Americans or in England or the United Kingdom attacking capitalism, they don't understand that they're just tools, right? These Marxists don't like and incorrectly label capitalism. They say they don't like capitalism, but they're actually protesting against fascism while being paid by fascism to attend these things and make it unbelievable. It's just crazy. George Soros is Mr. Big Business, big money, big billionaire who wants to run the world with all the other super elite. Unbelievable. And he's the one who pays these Antifa types to go to protests and tear shit up. And speaking of these people and what they're doing, Belarus now is apparently using humans as weapons. And I say shame, shame. Poland is warning that a major violent shooting incident is possible because Belarus is shoving, pushing, delivering migrants across a militarized border. Folks, we are having trouble. It's not Russia, it's Belarus. It is Eastern Europe, and they're getting in each other's faces. Right? I think I read an article yesterday that Poland is increasing their military size. Well, here we are. Here's another example of why they're doing it. It has nothing to do with Russia. Well, maybe it does. Fuck, I don't know. Maybe Russia is telling everyone else what to do. It's all Russia, Russia, Russia after all. But they're using weapons, weaponized humans, folks. Aren't they using weaponized humans here in the United States? I had a close confidant tell me that they spoke with some of these illegal immigrants that have come across the border. And they were told that if they don't vote in the elections, that if they don't vote for Democrats, they will be deported. Does that sound believable to you? Does that sound like something that would be told to someone who barely understands any English? Vote Democrat or we'll deport you. Here's a bunch of money going to America now. Does that sound believable? Well, maybe 10 years ago, you'd say, bullshit, John. That would never happen. 20 years ago, not a fucking chance that anyone would invite illegals across a border and then tell them to vote or be deported. But today, after what has happened in the last couple of years, do you doubt that report, that story, that allegation? Weaponized humans, folks. Weaponized humans. And I already talked to you in the last video about internet trolls. That is just such a huge crime, being a troll, speaking any kind of truth, right? And here we are, folks. We're halfway through the show, and it is your turn, folks. It's your turn. Emilio Estevez is not going to be part of Mighty Ducks. Why? Because he doesn't want a can of Jim Jones juice. Why is it so many people are allowed to say, you know what, I don't want it, but the reason behind them rejecting it isn't made public? Well, we can't have that now, can we? No, 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 we can't have that fact coming out. We don't want anyone to know the truth about that. No, sirree, Bob. But let's do this. Let's get to your questions. It's the second half of the show. It's time for the Q&A.
Are you ready?
Unbelievable. I tell you, unbelievable. What, CNN, Sesame Street getting together with Big Pharma to push propaganda on children? Hey, everyone, run, drink your Kool-Aid. It's so good for you. Oh, by the way, you'll get superpowers. Unbelievable. Well, we got Little Red Hen has this to say. John, I would appreciate your thoughts on this. People moving to mountains for want. Jolene, I can't read. The font is so small. I'm going to need to put on some glasses. Anyways, again, John, I would appreciate your thoughts on this. People moving to the mountains or want to move to the mountains, but fear bad guys that are dug in with drug camps in the secluded areas. What is your prediction of what those baddies will do once their food supply has been cut off? I say they will hot-foot it down out of the mountains to their families or FEMA camps. What do you think? I appreciate you. I appreciate the question. Here's what I think of this. There are marijuana drug-growing baddies, illegals, cartels, if you will, marijuana growers. There are people who you might think, if you knew otherwise, would think them to be absolutely normal business people that are in that business as well. But who do they hire? Who does the work? Who's up there? This exists. Now, the fact of the matter is the amount of rural land in the United States of America is massive. The amount of drugs being grown on that rural forested land is pretty minimal. The odds of you bugging out and running into a grow farm are pretty slim, unless you're in a place that's high density like Humboldt County, California. Still, right? Every square acre of forested area isn't intermingled and interspersed with marijuana grow fields. But that doesn't mean it's not a consideration or something that you need to totally discount, saying it's not possible. It is possible. Holy cow, now it's huge. I guess it's better big than small there, Jolene. Thank you very much for fixing that. Oh, that looks medium now. Anyways, there are going to be baddies everywhere, bad people. The problem with criminals combined with really hard times in SHTF is they're already used to making unethical or immoral decisions. They're okay with doing bad things to other people. Criminals are criminals, after all. They've got experience being criminal. They're already experienced in saying, well, fuck it, I don't care, and just doing whatever they need to do, not thinking about the consequences or caring about other people's feelings or lives or property. But folks, criminals are everywhere in our country. I'm not talking about your white collar criminal or your blue collar criminal. I'm talking about fucking scumbags, right? Druggies, right? people who are in the drug business, because it involves violence, it involves bribery and payoffs, it involves the worst of humanity. And that's just how that shit works. And they're used to making bad decisions and hurting other people. You, on the other hand, are probably a moral, decent, upstanding, tax-paying, non-criminal American. And so if you're put in a position where there's a bad situation developing, you are going to be less inclined to do something nasty because you're a good person. Planning, folks. Understanding, right? That when you're put in a bad situation, you didn't ask for it. You're going to need to do a lot of thinking, planning, and then training so that you don't become a victim to one of these baddies out there. Having said all that, going to the mountains and bugging out, you better have a place to go, right? Food, water, clothing, shelter. You need shelter. If you're going to go to the mountains in a bug out or SHTF gone haywire situation, you need to have a place that's there. Having a fifth wheel trailer, being an extreme outdoor person, knowing where caves are at, a tent, whatever you got, right? Whatever your plan is, just be well planned and well practiced. Again, I went to the jungles of the RMZ, lightly equipped and ready to really tough it out. And it was a bitch, right? The only thing I didn't have was people shooting at me, but it wasn't a whole lot of fun. Right? It's hard, in other words, to get along in a situation where you don't have what you're used to in a civilized world. That's what SHTF is about. All right, we got Oregon Patriot says, stock up on salt and Instacure #1 and 2, folks. When the power is gone, you can save your meats before they spoil. Okay, we're talking about curing meat. So a product called Instacure is what Oregon Patriot is recommending. You can also salt cure. But any of your refrigerated or frozen meats, yeah, you've got just a few days if we lose power, folks, electricity. Now, frozen foods take days and days and days to thaw out and then spoil. So having a freezer packed full of protein, it's going to stay frozen for many, 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 many days. And additionally, it's going to take many days to spoil. But between the time the power goes out and it spoils, you better either know the power's coming back on or have a plan. There are different ways to cure meat. You can cure it. I would say the most safe way to do it is to cook it, to turn it into jerky, if you will, right? Getting rid of all of the moisture out of the meat. It's dehydrating. That's what jerky is dehydrated meat. It can't spoil that way. But I would recommend going to the rsyndicate.com and finding preppers who have videos on how to cure meats. Right? Cure meats, cooked, dehydrated. It's going to be a mess, folks, if the power goes out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks or more, because people won't be able to deliver food, refrigerate food, get food. They're going to get hungry. They're going to get hungry. So people better be ready for it. David says, I watched a financial video today discussing maintaining our standard of living through this upcoming economic turmoil. How can we do better than just survive what is coming? Well, Dave, I appreciate the question. Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's fascinating. I'm going to bring up Dunnigan Kaiser, who did the Reluctant Prepper channel, went over to Liberty and Finance to talk more about the financing side. And now he's getting some guests back on about prepping. If you've got extra money, cash, do you leave it in FANG stocks? Facebook, Apple, Google, Netflix, or do you try and put it into some sort of investment vehicle that makes sense, something that's real and tangible you can put your hands on? I really like gold and silver. They're real, they're tangible, they've been around for thousands of years and everyone understands what it is. But we're here shit it's the fan is here. And on the other side of that is an economy where gold and silver will have value again. Getting through that really shitty period is going to be the trick. And so your question is, how do we do better than just surviving? Well, number one, it's better to have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. It's better to have those things than a pile of silver or gold. It just, one you can eat, one you can't. But if you've got everything you need for prepping taken care of, if you've got it handled, then you're in good shape. Good job. If you've got all that and you still have extra money, you need to be talking to someone and asking them their professional investment opinions about precious metals. The other precious metals I like, folks, that are never going to go out of style are, brass, lead, and copper. And they come out of things made out of cold blue steel. And those are precious metals also. It's coming, folks. It's really coming, just like this sneeze. I have had allergies like you can't believe. Wow. I wasn't ready for that in the South. Coming from the West Coast and then heading down south here. Woo, a little different. Anyways, it's all good. It's all good. I recommend, folks, if you've got money, you're going to need to protect it. That's just how it goes. You're going to need to protect it. I still can't get over the fact that Sesame Street is being used to propagandize children. Frustrating. Okay, moving on. Bonnie Blue says, the intentional destruction of the middle class. This administration, meaning the Gigi Biden-Harris administration, is using the tribes to do this. Their energy costs go up too. How do I argue with that or argue for it or against it? Everyone is being used in this. Everyone that they can is being exploited. The political leftists or globalists, these are the political class, folks, are using low class and middle class dupes who are Marxists. If we want to use the word tribe, we can talk about the Native American tribes. They're being screwed over and used. Everyone is being used in this, and they're pitting us against each other. This is the nature of divide and conquer politics, divide and conquer economics. Getting different classes pitted against each other while keeping themselves, the elites, very separate. They always want everyone else fighting, being divisive. They're using energy, right? Energy costs are going to go up. Oil, electricity, fuel. They're using food, right? The Chinese companies that own American sounding companies, food processors, they're using that. They're using the union or unionized class of people, that is, who would normally be considered hardworking Americans, but have been politicized as unions, right? They're playing games with America in these plants. And I don't care what any one particular person has to say about that. They're being used. The same way down at the ports. They're all playing a little game. These union workers are playing a little game, pretending like they're the ones being victimized as they don't unload container ships and get those trucks out into the public. This entire system, folks, politically, for the most part, Republicans are a bunch of rhino wimps who are doing nothing. I talk about Gohmert or Big Marge, or I talk about Matt Gaetz or Boebert, or I talk about Devin Nunes, right? But for the most part, all these politicians are a bunch of weak, spineless, coward sellouts. But they want us to believe in the Republicans. They want us to believe the Democrats are bad. It's everyone who doesn't give a shit and is selling out. Energy, food, national security, education, the law. All of it, folks. That's why I'm prepared. I don't trust any of these people with my life. I don't. Blue Coat Gorilla says, it is just quite the timing. Is it just quite the timing or coincidence that climate makes its way to the headlines? Is this forecasting of winter energy and the proposed climate lockdowns? Oh yeah, they've thrown that term around, haven't they? Climate lockdowns. Yeah, if a country or an area isn't behaving right, if they're producing too much carbon, then we need to have climate lockdowns. See, the people of the world, not just America, but the world, have now gotten used to locking down for a medical emergency. Never mind the fabricated nature of it. We have a climate emergency. Never mind the fabricated nature of it. Folks, in the winter, it gets cold. In the summer, it gets hot. I call that climate change on an annual basis, known as seasons. They're forecasting a very cold winter. They're forecasting higher energy prices. They completely screwed the systems up. They need everything screwed up so they can reset the system with social constraints and legal constraints and financial constraints and energy and food constraints and travel constraints. I think there's going to be hell to pay, folks, because of their Kool-Aid constraints that they've put on everybody. It's just started, folks. It is really just started. Every area of our life is being affected. And they're going to blame the climate, or they're going to blame a disease, or they're going to blame another country. They're going to blame you. Right? They always need a bad guy, a fall guy, or someone to blame. And as Uman and others have said in the past, every couple of days it changes. All of a sudden, climate is a big deal. Well, the meeting they had was last week, I thought. But now it's made it into the news cycle. This crap about climate change. Here we go. We got Bonnie Plu. Oh, she corrects me a little and says that comment was about the Native American tribes and pipeline shutdowns. The Michigan one is being considered, includes 5 tribes calling for the shutdown. Yes, there's a pipeline in Michigan. That's the one that the Biden administration is proposing be shut down. When they were doing the Keystone Pipeline, which was the one that comes all the way from Alberta, Canada, all the way down through Canada, across the American border, all the way through a bunch of states in America, that pipeline was set to go through lands that are tribal. Now, let me make some things clear. In order to do anything with someone else's property, there has to be an agreement. Now, did they use eminent domain and said, we're taking this pipeline through your property, tribes? Or did they say, we'll pay you to allow this pipeline to come through your property? There have to be, folks, NEPA, National Environmental Protection Agency guidelines met, meaning it takes years and years. There has to be meetings with the communities, meetings with environmental groups, meetings with environmental companies that come in and they do testing. They have to look at the environment. Are there endangered species? You can't just do what you want on property anymore, folks. Not when it's something the government is doing. It has to go through state and federal regulations with regard to the tribes. Even though they're sovereign tribes, they fall under the federal government. They're not sovereign with regard to the feds, folks. But they are sovereign with respect to the states in which they are surrounded by. So yeah, the tribal people, they are split and divided also. And I have personal experience with this. Some are on the side of big government and handouts and freebies, and others are hardworking, good people. They believe in freedom and liberty, property rights. So who is being used? Well, we're all being used, and we're all being pitted against each other. The media will show up and show you what they want you to see. Right? That's how that works. The media shows up to tell you what they want you to see. So they could show you this group of Native Americans or that group of Native Americans, whoever is on the side of the agenda. So you never know which they are, folks. and why they're there. You just are being told a story. We're all being told a story. Now, if the story is we're going to shut this pipeline down, then you get to look and go, well, where does that pipeline go? What does it supply? Who benefits? Key bono. Who benefits from this shutdown? Why would the tribes want to shut down a pipeline? It's already in place. It's already delivering gas. Now, I know this, folks, and I don't know the specifics about this tribe's, how much they get paid for this, if they get paid anything at all. Typically, folks, if you go across someone else's property, there's an agreement, right, an easement. And if I own property and someone said, we're going to want to bring our product, electricity, gas, whatever, across my property, I would say, no problem. All you have to do is pay me to come across my property. Now, the thing with these tribes is sometimes they're very good about distributing the wealth amongst the entire tribal organization, and other times they're not. Happenstance is where it happens, folks. I don't know what this tribe's deal is, how well they treat each other and how well they do with money. I have no idea. But yeah, they're being used. Everyone is being used, folks, whether they're Native Americans, Hispanics, blacks, whites, Asians. They're all part of this disgusting game that's being played by the power elite with the mainstream media and how they pit us against each other and push and pull. But ultimately, it is us, all of us, little people, that end up paying. We end up paying and being in pain. That pipeline goes to a remote area or a geographic region and it's going to be cut off. Who benefits from that? Does Warren Buffett benefit because now the large volumes of gas need to be sent by rail car or trucking firms? What's that going to do to the price of those fuels, that energy on the other side, once they get it to it a different way? Yeah, someone's making money on this, folks. They always do. Knights Fighting Snails checks in and says, maybe we should ask the knights who say Nipa. Bring them a shrubbery. Yes, that's right. The knights who say Ni, right? Nipa, Sequa. Anytime you do anything, it takes years. I remember fighting a windmill project in California because, yeah, I didn't want it in my backyard. Additionally, I was told that all of the cattle ranchers who were putting cattle, wanted to put them where these windmills were going, were told they couldn't put cattle there because it was destructive to the birds' environment. You bet, folks, there were birds that were very important to the state of California, and consequently, you couldn't have cattle in that area, even though those farmers had used that land. This sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Use that land for generations to run cattle. All of a sudden, the birds were a priority. But then along came Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro, Obama, and said, let's put windmills everywhere. And so they looked at this area and said, we may have industrial wind there, so we need to put windmills in that area. Never mind that we're going to make gigantic roads and tear up the mountains, carving, right, building, grading roads, destroying habitat, and then building these enormous concrete platforms on which, right, we're going to put these huge hundreds of feet tall windmills that are going to chop the ever-loving shit out of birds because it was a migration corridor, right? So the geese, the ducks, all manner of flying fowl were going to get chopped to fucking ribbons on this as they went over the mountain to come down into a valley that's full of water, which is why the birds go there. They're like, hey, there's a great place to fucking land. Last time I sat my feathered ass down was in Canada. Oh, Canada. And now we're in extreme Northern California. We want to land. Look at that water. All we have to do is run this fucking gauntlet through this windmill zone. Anyways, NEPA, the environmentalist people, and everyone who was pushing for the windmills didn't have any problem disturbing birds in their habitat at that time. But Lord help us if cows want to eat some grass. Unfucking believable. Double tapping hillbillies in the house. He says, you're doing good, bud. Hang in there. Haven't heard from you in a long time, man. Good to see that you're still alive. You should still have my email as well. Let me know what's going on in your neck of the woods, would ya? Good deal. And we got Prepped Ohio Silver Stacker. Now we've got someone who is both a small investor. Silver stackers, they like, having 4 or 5 silver coins around. Silver Stacker is also a prepper. He says, how did the White Duck tent hold up at the RMZ? Is it still leak proof and all that? Tell you what, last I heard it was. It's a great tent. It's heavy duty canvas. I think the only way to get a heavier duty canvas would be to buy a military tent that the military made, that was supposed to be an enormous, huge tent, and then cut that fabric down for a smaller house, so it's overbuilt. I mean, I would have loved, folks, for everything to be. I love overbuilt stuff. The house I built for the family way back in 2006. I built the prepared bunker house, beautiful palatial, Mediterranean styled, concrete reinforced place, right? Overbuilt. The White Duck tent, great tent, held up marvelously in, folks, one night I got 12 inches of rain. One night. I would say I got 1 inch of rain an hour, every fucking hour. It was incredible, the amount of rain I got. No drips, no leaks, no runs. I mean, there were a few times I got a couple of drops here and there, and I don't know where they came. Was it just moisture gathering on the inside and dripping? Hard to say, but it's held up marvelously well. A great product. Nothing is perfect, folks. It never is. And a tent is a tent, and a yurt is a yurt, and a house is a house. The roof may leak, the wind may blow through it, but it is mine, and the king may not enter. Anyways, it's a great tent. He says, thanks, man. Keep up the outstanding work, Semper Fi. Thank you very much, Prepped Ohio Silver Stacker. Thank you very much. I have a family member that is conducting a similar experiment. I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, but this family member of mine is going to spend a winter in a tent in a very cold climate. Now, of course, there are a couple of people who look just like me out there, but I can't tell you who it is that's going to do it, but they're going to brave the cold, this family member. They've got the appropriate clothing, the appropriate vehicle, the appropriate supplies, everything. And they're going to have a cold winter to see how that goes. As for me, I've had enough cold, me personally. Other family members say, no, we like the cold, but I don't. Had enough of that. Rudy checks in and says, during the Great Reset, the lucky places will only revert to the 1800s. The unlucky places will turn to barbarism and chaos. If the Great Reset goes bad, I'm going to agree with you. If they kick off the power and it stays off, we go back, folks, to oxen and horses pulling carts. We need electricity to run the oil wells. We need electricity to turn oil into fuels, diesel fuel, gasoline, and other products. We need electricity to power our homes and run our refrigerators, air conditioners, washing machines, stoves and ovens, microwaves, gizmos, gadgets, and goodies. Television, entertainment, everything relies on electricity. And what is one of the big ways to get electricity? Well, burning coal. They want to stop that. Burning natural gas, they want to stop that. Right? Solar and wind aren't going to ever be enough. We can't have enough solar panels because there's not enough batteries to store it all. And then there's not enough wind. Right now, the industrial wind in Europe is failing them. It is not very windy. I thought we were supposed to have storms and climate change and wind and fury. No, they don't have enough wind. Their windmills aren't turning, so they're firing up their natural gas plants. You need natural gases, you need oils, fuels, and you need electricity. Right? We need those things to make this world work. And they're trying to stop it, folks. Well, they're trying to change things. They're trying to change the political system we have so that they benefit and they run everything as the elites. I mean, weren't they making enough money before? Why do they have to change the Constitution? Couldn't they just make a bunch of money off the United States of America and be happy with that? The answer is no. Why? Because they're a bunch of cocksuckers. That's why. They're not happy having all of the money that they could ever spend. They're not happy having all of the property that they could care to own. They want more. They're sadistic. They want us to have nothing so that they feel more powerful. Right? They don't like the people in first class. And folks, normal people fly first class. I get it. Right? They don't want us being able to travel. They get in their private jet and we go in a public jet. Right? We just get on Southwest or Delta or American Airlines, whatever, and fly to the same places the super rich do. They don't like that. They don't like you having a vacation because they're like, hey, we have vacations, and now what are these loathsome people doing here at this resort? They don't like us having the things they have. You know, they have air conditioning. Well, so do we. They have food in their freezers and fridge. Well, so do we. We have the best computers, just like the rich people. They don't like that. They like having all of the money, all of the power, and being way better than us. The uber elite have always been that way, wanting to lord it over us, tell us what to do. In the last 50 years, folks, the last 100 years, we'll go with 100 years. The last 100 years, the standard of living between the super rich and the poor and middle class, we're pretty damn close, right? They're eating filet mignon and we're eating steak and hamburger, right? They've got air conditioning. We've got air conditioning. They've got a freezer. We've got a freezer. They got a Serta sleep super duper bed. Well, we can get a Serta fucking sleep bed. I mean, do you think a billionaire sleeps on a mattress that you can't go out and buy yourself? Well, maybe. Fuck, I don't know. But they want to distinguish themselves with us is the point. So they've got to bring our system down and create their system. Then they can feel good about it. A neo-feudal fascist super state with Marxist rules for you, the plebes. That's what they're trying to do. And if they fuck it all up, yeah, we're going back to the cart and horse. We are past the hour, folks. And the only thing I have left to say is let's go, Brandon. Oh, boy. Get prepared, folks. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. I'll be back. The things we talked about here just happened today. Just today. Tomorrow, by the time you see me again, there's going to be a whole new slew of shit out there. A whole new slew of shit. And you need to keep up with it. That's why we're documenting it. That's why you're getting prepared. And understand they could fuck everything up. You know, if they screw this up big time, we're all in big, big, big trouble. But odds are they'll screw it up just enough to try and get their wish, folks, and that is ultimate and total control of this country. And we have a part to play in this. Do we have to give them, the super rich, what they want? Do we have to give up our rights? I don't think so. That's not part of my plan. Do I have to allow them to inject me with their ideas? Do I have to accept their ideas? Do I have to go along with their ideas? No, I don't. They would believe that I am just a nobody, just a little man that well, they can get rid of me then. They would like that. But, you know, you, me, and all of us, we don't like what they have in mind. So it's time to stand, folks. Make a stand. Prep to action. Get prepared. Start taking action. And it's working, folks. We haven't won. We're not winning, but we are waking up and we're winning some small little battles. And as we win and as things get worse, more people will join us. So spread the word, share this video. Thank you again for all the support you've shown at patreon.com by going to The Prepared Mind and subscribing. You guys be cool. Semper Fi.